Hello and welcome back, Squirrel Nation. Today we're going to dive into my Sephira guide. I'm going to cover builds, I'm going to cover counters, I'm going to cover playstyle, I'm going to cover all that good stuff. So before I was doing two parts for these guide series, I was doing overview and then the gameplay. So moving forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the overview on a YouTube video. And if you want to see the gameplay, come check me out on Twitch when I am live Sundays, 11 a.m. Korean time. I will also link my Twitch in the comments below so you can just go down. I highly recommend you follow and turn on notifications so you do see when I go live. I do go live other days, but Sunday is my scheduled time that I 100% will be live. Moving on, so Sephira. She is countered by Flash, Richter, and Alistair. I thought of these off the top of my head. The reason that Flash does well against Sephira is Sephira, she's a poke hero, whereas Flash is more of an assassin mage, meaning Flash can get in, get burst damage, and get out, whereas Sephira needs a couple different engagements, right? She's not going to have one big engagement and burst down the enemy. The other reason Flash does very well against Sephira is Sephira's a big part of her kit is her ultimate because it heals her allies and does damage to enemies. Well, the thing is, Flash can ultimate on top of Sephira's ultimate, and then all of Sephira's team has a really hard choice, right? Do we sit in Sephira's ultimate and get the heal? But if we do that, we're gonna all get clumped together by Flash's ultimate and probably just burst into non-existence. Or so it just makes for a lot of hard, confusing decisions when a Sephira ults and then a Flash ults on top of it. Next one is Richter. Richter, I think, works well against Sephira because, once again, Richter can burst damage at the later stages of the game. Sephira can basically counter ultimate Richter's ultimate, so Richter ultimates, he has that AoE, and then Sephira can do the same with hers. But here's the thing, here's the kicker, is Richter's counter, so his S2, if he is hit by CC, then he's going to stun anybody in the range of his S2. So the thing is, Sephira, if she uses her S1, which has CC attached to it, it has a slow, then it will actually trigger Richter's stun. So if you imagine real quick, if you imagine Sephira ultimates on top of her team clump inside that ultimate, then Richter, right, he dashes in, he gets his S1, knocks up all those people in Sephira's ultimate, plus his ultimate's ticking damage, right? They are going to get healed from Sephira's ultimate, but they're already getting stacks of Richter's ultimate, which are really going to hurt. And then the thing is, if Richter times it well and he counters, he's actually going to stun the majority of people sitting in Sephira's ultimate. So that's why I think Richter does quite well against Sephira. Another thing is that Sephira's S1 is annoying to Richter, but like we just said, he can counter her S1 and actually stun anybody around him, which makes him, in my opinion, a very good counter to Sephira. Last one is Alistair. Sephira has slow wave clear, okay? So in the beginning stages of the game, she can basically only S1. If she uses her S2 and S1, her wave clear is still not great, and she's going to be consuming a lot of mana. She's not going to have mana she needs to roam around the map and do other things. So Alistair is one of the mages who has insanely fast clear speed. He basically just needs to drop down his abilities, S1, S2, and then the wave's just going to die. So that lets him out roam Sephira. So Sephira will be stuck in lane clearing. Alistair will already be roaming the map and looking for kills. Later on in the game, what happens is Alistair, if he locks down Sephira, she can't ult out of it, she can't get out of it, and Sephira is very squishy. Because of the fact that she has her mobility with her S2, and the fact that she has the iframe with her ultimate, the devs to balance that make Sephira a very squishy hero. So if she gets locked down by CC, she is going to die. Alistair, out of the choices, I think is the least countered by hero, but he still does counter her quite well, in my opinion. So, who does Sephira counter? First one, Jinnar. The reason I think Sephira counters Jinnar very well is she just does what Jinnar does, but better. So Jinnar has his S1, which is the balls that bounce between teammates, whereas Sephira has her S1. The difference is Jinnar's range is much shorter, okay? So Sephira can poke Jinnar, Jinnar can never poke Sephira. if the players are of equivalent skill level. Same thing with the S2s. Jinnar's S2 is a very close range, hits everybody in the range, but Sephira's S2 has a much longer distance on the stun. The other reason that the S2s matter is because Jinnar, when he ultimates, is just a huge ball of AoE, and he moves towards you, but Sephira, with her S1, she slows down Jinnar, so he can't get into Sephira's team as easily. And then also, she has her S2 to actually stun him and zone him back when he ultimates. The other thing is, if Jinnar gets in a huge clump of enemies and is ulting on top of them, Sephira can counter ultimate and hopefully sustain her enemies through Jinnar's ult. And when Jinnar doesn't have his ult, he doesn't really have that much great damage, and he just loses his scariness when his cooldown on his ultimate is up. Anyways, Quillen is one who suffers to me from Sephira. One, when she's support, he definitely doesn't want to see her because he can't burst her down. As soon as he pops out, he's going to backstab her once. It's not going to kill her. She's going to ultimate, and then he kind of has a hard choice. He needs to retarget onto somebody else, or he's just going to have to use his ultimate to disengage and completely reset. And then if he disengages, he has to wait for his ultimate to come back up before he can really get into the position he needs to be effective. Another reason Quillens don't want to see a Sephira is because the slows. Okay, Quillen does not like being slowed. He is a mobility assassin. He has that short stealth on his ultimate, and he needs the speed, the mobility to get into position and burst people down. So if Sephira hits her S1, it has that slow attached to it, and it makes Quillen's life a lot harder. It makes it a lot harder for him to get in position, and if he's trying to run away and disengage, it also makes his life a lot harder. So on to Raz. Raz, it's kind of the same thing as Quillen. So Raz has really nice poke, but at the same time, his core burst, his core mechanic, is actually his knockback and knockups. So he wants to get close, right? He wants to get close to you. And another thing about Raz that makes him very good in the right hands is his mechanic where his auto attack will make him dash. And I believe it's either his passive, but it might be his S1. But anyway, so Raz counts on mobility to poke, and then he dives in for the killing blows. So Sephira counters that again because, once again, her S1 slows him down, so it makes it hard for him to get the position he wants. It makes it hard for him to engage, disengage. And Raz is very micro-intensive, very sensitive to positioning, so Sephira just makes it really hard on him. Same thing with her S2. Basically, it just makes it hard on Raz, right? One, it speeds up Sephira. Two, her S2 is about approximately the same range that Raz is going to be throwing his S1 fireball at people. So it just makes it a lot harder on Raz players. And then finally, the ultimate just basically nullifies what Raz is going to try to do, right? He's going to try to get into a team. He's going to try to knock you out of position and burst you down. Well, Sephira, the knock is going to happen. She's going to eat damage, but then she's going to ultimate because he's not going to one combo Sephira unless he's significantly ahead. And yeah, so she basically eats all of his damage, eats his cooldowns, and then heals up and gets out. Okay, on to weaknesses and strengths. Sephira's squishy we covered. Her wave clear is not good and she lacks burst damage. Okay, so these are very important to understand because the weaknesses and strengths affect how you approach playing a hero. Okay, so strengths, highly mobile because of her S2. Great poke because her S1, and when she builds Apocalypse, the item, she does her S1 and then auto attacks, and then you have to also consider her passive. So you're going to get, every time Sephira casts her S1, you actually should be doing 3 sources of damage. S1, auto attack, and then the passive, Sephira's passive, will also trigger. Outplay potential. Any hero that has an iframe has a lot of outplay potential. Sephira has it with her ultimate. And then the way that her S2 works and the way that her passive works, Sephira can do a lot of very intelligent things and just kind of outplay the enemy. Immunity, we just covered with the ultimate, and then sustain because of her passive. So remember, the passive heals the lowest ally and it damages the lowest health enemy. okay? And that's every time Sephira casts a spell, so keep that in mind. The synergies. So we talked about Sephira is, and this kind of goes into playstyle. To me, the playstyle that I found very successful with Sephira is I play her like I play a support, okay? I just keep poking at the enemies. I'm just trying to keep them slowed. I'm trying to keep them stunned and zoned with my S2, and then when my team needs it, I'm using my ult as a heal. I very rarely use my Sephira ult as a damage, burst damage. I use it mainly to heal my team or for me to disengage. So how I play Sephira is I get into the enemy team, I soak their damage, I soak their cooldowns, I say, hey, you can't kill me, but you can try. I get my S1 slow on them, right? And then as soon as they kind of get me down, maybe around 30% health, I ultimate. I come back into my team's backline. I get healed, my backline gets healed, and the enemy just wasted all their damage on me. And then the whole time I'm throwing out my S1, which is healing my low enemy, my lowest friendly, damaging the enemy's lowest person, and then just basically spamming my abilities, spamming auto attack. So the heroes that go really well with that is one, Zenial, because when I soak all the enemy's damage and then I ultimate, Zenial can actually ultimate on top of me, okay? And that is going to be really powerful because all of our allies can get into my ultimate, Zenial's ultimate. It's going to be a heal from my ultimate, a heal from Zenial's ultimate. The enemies are going to take damage from my ultimate, damage from likely the Zenial's going to ult him with shield, so his shield burst. So everybody in around me and the Zenial at that point are going to take massive damage. Great combo. Marja is very similar. So actually, Sephira's playstyle to me is very similar to the way I play Marja. Same thing. I'm going in. I'm actually like a tank mage. I'm basically trying to soak the damage from the enemies, soak their cooldowns, soak their burst damage, and then I use my ultimate, and then I disengage, and then I just wait for my ultimate to come back up and keep doing that same thing over and over again. I'm not trying to burst down the enemy. So Marja works well with Sephira because of that same thing, right? So Marja goes in, she soaks the enemy's cooldowns, their damage, she gets out. Then Sephira goes in, she soaks the enemy's damage, the cooldowns, then she gets out. Then she heals. The Marja and the Sephira are both healing back up. So that can be really annoying. You can actually run both of them without even having a tank on your team, and it's a really fun comp. It's something that I've been running with some of my friends, and I love that combination of Marja and Sephira. Quillen, Sephira does well with because her S1. So the thing that Quillen doesn't like about going against Sephira also helps him when the Sephira is on his team. The reason I say that is Sephira goes in, she S1s the entire enemy team. Okay, well now they're all slowed down. And like we said, Quillen, he needs to get into position. He needs to get behind the enemy lines. He needs to get on their backline. Well, if the whole enemy team is slowed, then guess what? It's much easier for Quillen to get in a good position. Same thing with her S2. It has that nice radius, so generally marksmen, if they're in good position for a team fight, are going to be around where Sephira's S2's radius stuns. So Quillen can basically stay on that edge, and then he's safe because if the enemies get on him, Sephira can move her stun right on top of the enemies that are trying to peel Quillen. And if marksmen are trying to disengage, Sephira can just simply move up her S2 stun radius, and then the marksman's going to have a hard choice of, do I take this Quillen's damage or do I get stunned and then probably still take this Quillen's damage. So that is that. Stages of the game, I think Sephira is strong throughout all stages. I don't think she's weak at any phase. Her playstyle does change, but she's not a hero who falls off late game. She provides value at all stages. In the early parts, she has her sustain, her passive is key at all stages. So I think that's enough on that because she's not really a spiky hero. Builds. Okay, so I'm giving you a lane build and I'm giving you a support build. This is targeted at the NA patch where the Purifying Bracers can be used when you are stunned. Okay, but so if you notice, the core items are all the same. The only thing that switches out between these is if I'm laning as Sephira, I will build my Orb of the Magi. If I am supporting as Sephira, I will get the Purifying Bracers if I want the water support item, or I will get probably Ring of the Fiend if I am going for a wind item, or if, let's say, I'm playing against a Quillen, I obviously want Ring of the Fiend. I see people making this mistake all the time. If you are matched against an invisible jungle assassin, you must take Ring of the Fiend. There's no reason you should not take Ring of the Fiend, so just keep that in mind. For the lane, I'm not going to cover the build that much because It's just pretty intuitive. I will say the Apocalypse is very important early because it lets Sephira cast and then auto attack and just mix her casting and auto attacking, and that's how she can start doing significant damage. Barris, the reason that's a good item is because, like I said, I play Sephira like poke, 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 and Barris is a great poke hero item because it then does a percentage of their health as a damage over time ability. Hectates you just want on any mage because it amps up their amount of ability power, and then you need some sort of magic penetration. Staff of Null for Sephira because she's not the type of mage who is going to be sitting in the middle, right? There are some cases where she's going to be sitting in the middle of the team, and you could make an argument for I'm missing out on the name, Soaring Aura. There we go. You could make an argument for Soaring Aura on Sephira, but for me, I prefer Staff of Null, so then I go into that. For the support, this is more interesting. Water item on Sephira works very well because you have to think of how Sephira is played. Sephira, because of her passive, she wants to be around an ally, she wants to be around the enemy, she wants to be in an environment where allies and enemies are. So that's why like a dragon lane, duo lane type of support style for Sephira works, because she already wants to be around somebody else so that they're healing from her passive, and she wants to be around the enemy so they're taking extra damage from her passive. So that's why I like Waterstone. The one thing that can get scary as support Sephira is the enemies can get a significant gold lead on you, which means they can burst you down before you can ultimate. So that's why I really think the Purifying Bracers are a great fit for Sephira, because then even if they CC you, you can Purifying Bracers and then pop your ultimate right away before they can burst you down. And honestly, when I support Sephira, that's probably been my main issue, is getting bursted before I can ultimate. Okay, Arcana Set. So damage and survival, I broke it down this way. If you're support, I would recommend you go for survival. If you are damage, I would recommend, or if you're playing in lane, I would recommend you go for damage. But either way, you're getting benevolence. The one thing I will say to stand out is your cooldown reduction. So if you run survival, you're going to have 6% cooldown reduction built into your build. So also keep that in mind. But anyways, the Arcana are pretty self-explanatory. What to practice, final slide. What to practice on Sephira goes to landing your S2 stun, right? Getting people in that little band of CC. So that is a hard thing. And I will say, you want to aim your S2 stun where the enemy wants to be. And so for instance, I use my S2 almost exclusively for peel. And when I'm trying to peel, the enemy wants to be on my carry, like on my marksman, for instance. So I aim my S2 on top of my marksman, and then that way I stun anybody trying to kill my marksman. I also like to land my S2 to the sides of Sephira, so not in front, not behind, but I work myself to the left or to the right of the place that I want to stun, so I'm stunning in a vertical band on the screen. Second thing to practice is iframe. Iframes, the invulnerability frame is on her ultimate, and what I mean by practicing it is just get your timing down, so that if, let's say, Maraud is ultimate, figure out the timing you need to press your ultimate so that you don't take damage from Maraud's ultimate. Same thing from a tower shot. Same thing from a different Cricknack's burst, right? When Cricknack's going to ult in, make sure you can dodge those things using Sephira's ultimate. Next thing, and these last two things are probably the most important things to practice if you really want to up your game as Sephira, okay, is weaving spellcast with auto attacks, okay? And what I mean is Sephira's passive triggers every time she casts a spell, okay? So what you want to do is you want to throw out your abilities. For instance, you want to throw out S1, get your slow, then you want to auto attack, okay? And the auto attack is because, especially once you get Apocalypse, you have that extra damage based on your ability power put on your auto attack after you cast a spell. So you cast a spell, you auto attack. Apocalypse procs. Cast a spell, auto attack, right? And then keep doing that. So just cast a spell, auto attack, cast a spell, auto attack. Every time you do that, they're going to take damage from the spell, they're going to take damage from your passive, and they're going to take damage from the auto attack. So C is very important. Passive usage. understand that your passive is 800 units. That is the same distance as your S1. So any enemy or any friendly inside your S1, that is what your passive is calculating off of. So the lowest friendly unit in your S1's range is going to get healed. The lowest health enemy is going to get damaged in your S1's range. So that's just an easy way to understand Sephira's passives range. So anyways, that does it for Sephira's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will have, I believe, Elsu's video coming out next. But anyways, as always, take care and happy ranking.